All right, well, I am Ashley Mathers. I'm with the Nebraska Department of Labor, and I'm the WIOA Program Coordinator. We actually have quite a few services available to your clients through NDOL. We have numerous programs all housed under the Department of Labor name. So the first and main service that we have available to any and everyone who walks in would be our AnyWorks Labor Exchange website. And basically anybody can register on that for free. They can set up an account, they can build a resume that stays on there. It can be active so that our employers who set up their accounts on there can actually go and search through the active resumes and find candidates that match their job requirements and skills that they're asking for. So we do take a lot of time and effort working with our job seekers to make sure that they understand how to title their resumes correctly so employers can find them, what skills they need to ensure that they include, and tabs in the website to go through so that those pop up on those employer searches so that they can find the best fitting position for them. On here, you also have access to all of our labor market information, and you actually don't have to have an account to access that. It's right on the main screen, and you have access to any of the H3 jobs, any sort of education data, pretty much a little bit of everything on there. It's almost overwhelming when you first get on, but we do offer like some workshops, so we can actually do a navigation workshop with you or with your clients. We could come and do a presentation to a group of your office or clients, whatever you would prefer, and do like an AnyWorks workshop. We can do workshops on career readiness, personal hygiene, and how important that is for the workforce. Pretty much anything that you need or your clients need, we can develop some sort of workshop or skills training for them to go through. So this just lists out some of the job seeker services. So like I said, another thing we can do that I didn't mention was mock interviewing. I know we've had a lot of questions, especially currently with all the layoffs, especially all of the retail layoffs. There's a lot of 50, 60-year-old individuals who haven't interviewed or applied for a job in many, many years. And they're like, they get in the interview and they're just overwhelmed. They don't know what to say. So we actually do those mock interviews with them. They just have to call and say, hey, do you have somebody who can do this with me? I'm applying for this type of position. And we'll come up with basic resume questions that would be, or basic interview questions that would be asked for that, and interview with them so they can just build a little bit of confidence in their answers. And then, like I said, the main program I focus on is our WIOA training program. And what that is a federally funded program designed to assist individuals in obtaining employment by providing a variety of skills. So we focus on occupational skills training, job search assistance. We provide us different assessments. And we actually have 4 separate programs. So we have an in-school youth, an out-of-school youth, an adult, and a dislocated worker program. And they each have different guidelines as far as eligibility. All of our programs focus on in-demand occupations, short-term training, and self-sufficient wages. And we review all of that with the clients when they come and meet with us for their initial meeting, kind of what our goal is, what their goal is, and how we can make that match up. So eligibility and program services, we will review the youth eligibility first. So this is actually a new program available to what we consider Region 2, which would be North Platte, McCook, Ogallala, all of that. So we didn't have youth services for the last 5 or 8 years. So with the in-school youth, basically the individual has to be 14 to 21. They have to be in school, some sort of at school, low income, and meet one sort of barrier to employment. And I say barrier lightly because one of the barriers can be that they're pregnant or parenting. So, I mean, it's pretty common for a 19 or 20-year-old to have a child at that time anymore. So, barrier is very light. But some of the others could be basic skills deficient, English language learner, an offender, homeless, any of those. And then for the out-of-school youth, those individuals need to be 16 to 24, not attending any education, and Job Corps does not count as an education program for WIOA. So if they're in Job Corps, we actually can assist them as an out-of-school youth. But 16 to 24, not attending school, and they have to meet some sort of barrier the same as those other ones, either a school dropout, pregnant, parenting, in foster care, offender, that sort of thing. And then some of the youth program services we can offer are tutoring and study skills, paid and unpaid work experiences. That's probably the most popular one because we can actually pay for the individual to get up to 500 hours of work experience at an employer. We sign a contract, but Department of Labor actually pays their wages during that training. And then they have the potential that if the individual fits and they like them, they can hire them on full-time and take over. So that's one that we use quite a bit. We also have our on-the-job trainings, which we can kind of partner with our work experiences, where we can work with an employer and reimburse up to 75% of the individual's wages up to 6 months, depending on the skill level of the job and the wage that they're making. And that's a really popular one. We also do your typical OST education. We focus on 2-year or less programs, short-term training, H3, wages. We also do supportive services, financial literacy, basically whatever they need to become job ready, we can provide to those youth individuals. So our adult and dislocated worker programs, to qualify for the adult program, the individual has to be 18 or older, low income, and then we do follow the priority of service guidelines. So veterans and eligible spouses are first priority, then it would be low income, non-veterans and spouses, and keep going from there. Typically, in Greater Nebraska, we don't have an issue with a waiting list, so you don't see the priority of service being used that often. We can help most anybody who's referred to us and walks into our door, but if something happened with our funding, veterans would be our first priority. And then for the dislocated worker program, basically what a dislocated worker is someone who has lost their last job due to no fault of their own. So a lot of times we see that with like the layoffs, like Payless and any of the closings for factories, stores, whatever. But one category that a lot of people do not realize, and we probably are going to see some more of this, would be self-employed individuals. So if a farm worker lost their business or didn't profit for the last 12 months and had to get into work, we can help a farm worker who is self-employed, a rancher, whatever it is. They could just bring us like documentation from their taxes or anything like that to enroll them. And the other big one that a lot of people don't realize classifies as a dislocated worker is a displaced homemaker. And that could be an individual who was taking care of a spouse and now the spouse has passed away and they have to go to work because they're not receiving that Social Security check they were before, or maybe they're a displaced homemaker due to a divorce or something like that. So that is a category a lot of people don't realize, and those individuals don't have any sort of income requirements. If they qualify as dislocated under our definition, we can enroll them and provide all of our services. And then the adult and dislocated worker program services are fairly similar to the youth. We do basically any sort of career counseling, guidance, supportive services. And when I say supportive services, those are typically funded services where we can assist with paying for mileage for them to get back and forth to school. We can pay for a month of rent if they need that, utilities if they're going to get shut off, something to that effect. The financial literacy piece is a piece we really try and promote. A lot of the clients and individuals we work with really need that financial learning. So that's a program we try and push a little bit. And then we do just your typical workforce preparation, and then your training programs the same as the youth. So we could do the occupational skills training and help them pay for their education, on-the-job training, skills upgrading and retraining, any of that. And then Once we work with an individual, they find unsubsidized employment, we close them out of our program. We will follow them for the next year following so that we can kind of help provide that extra career counseling or guidance, whatever they may need while they're in that employment and trying to establish that work skills, workplace retention. So we will actually contact them every 3 months for the 12 months, more often if they need that as well. And then referrals to our program, we do not have any formal referral process. You can call or email your client's information to the local WIOA contact. Here in Region 2, that contact is Whitney Spear. She is housed in our Lexington office, but she covers the entire Region 2 area, so up to Valentine, down to the south border, over to Ogallala and Dawson County. So pretty large area. When you do send your referrals, keep in mind that the more information you include in the referral, the better, just because it helps her to determine which of the 4 programs that individual is going to qualify under. So if you know their age, I know that's not always a question we're supposed to ask individuals, but if you happen to know that they might qualify as a youth, make sure to indicate that to her. If you know that they have a barrier, they've been in the juvenile justice system, they've been homeless or currently homeless, and couch surfing counts as homeless, make sure to include that because she can use that in her assessments to make them eligible. Any questions? That's all I got.
Whitney, is your contact information on the brochure or something?
So on the brochure is all of our 13 of our offices. We just opened 2 more offices, so we now have 15 offices throughout Greater Nebraska, but the 13 Greater Nebraska offices, and McCook, North Platte, and Lexington's information is on here. It's just the general information, but if you ask for Whitney, they'll get you to her. She does not have cards yet, or she would have hand those out. If I get contact for this, she can actually follow up with an email and send you all of the information. So yeah.
Is there a specific referral form, or do we just make a call and just?
Yep, you can just call or email. She may ask, if you call with the information, she may ask you to follow up with an email saying that X program is referring this individual, just so she can use it as proof, documentation.
Do you send an email back and say, yes, this person is involved in the program and stuff like that?
Back to you?
Yes.
Not always, but if you want follow-up, knowing that she's going to enroll them, you're still working with them, because that's a lot of, we push, co-enrollment is a huge piece of WIOA. So the more we can co-enroll our participants and have numerous programs helping them, the better. So if you're still going to be working with them while she is, we want to keep that contact piece. So yes, she would say, yes, I have enrolled him, we're gonna work on this, keep me up to date with what you're doing with him, and I'll keep you up to date with what I'm doing. That way you guys aren't providing the exact same services, but can provide whatever the individual needs.
With youth that are in the juvenile justice system, are there any charges a youth can have to where you would not accept them? Like any felonies or?
Nope, we take them all. We do, depending on what their charges are, we may have to guide them a little differently on their career choices, because a lot of times they'll come in and be like, well, I want to be an HVAC tech. You told me that's H3, it was on your list. Well, it is. However, you're going to be walking into homes, so if you have felony theft charges, most HVAC companies aren't going to take you, and so that's just a conversation we have with them. Yeah. Thank you. If you think of any other questions, let me know. We're always around. My contact information, I can pass my cards out as well. So.
Okay. Try now.
Ashley? Yes?
We didn't get any contact information in McCook. Can we get information on how to contact you?
Yes,
And a
Yeah,
copy
I
of this presentation?
Yeah.
sure. Yep. Yeah, I can do that. And then I have some youth brochures I'm gonna hand out, and I can email those as well, the link to where you can print those. The ones that I'm handing out today are actually targeted for the youth to hand to the participant. But we also have some that you can hand out if you're working with employers and they might be interested in hiring on and utilizing that free 500 hours of labor. Hiring an individual on, we have some that are employer targeted, so I can send the link to both of those.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They'll have it because you registered.
Yeah, I just didn't know if.
Okay, so that's exciting because we run all Macs in our office, and whenever I plug into a PC, all I do is just hope for the best because it often doesn't work. So I'm Katie Kane. I work for Nebraska VR here out of the North Platte office. Our website is on there. There's a bunch of information and a video about some of the things I'm going to talk about today. So we are an agency that helps people with disabilities prepare for, find, and keep jobs. And we also work with employers to help them recruit, train, and retain employees. So we call that a dual client approach, just helping everybody work together to be successful. And we are all about employment, so for people with that experience a disability. So we do offer, in theory, anyway, we'll talk about that. All kinds of services that help people become employed. So we can do things like vocational evaluation to help people figure out what they're good at and what their skills are, what their interests are. We can do job seeking skills, helping people get their resume together, practice interviewing, and job search. We can do some training kinds of things. It's very specific to the person and what they need. Our program is voluntary, so nobody can be forced to work with us. And I always tell the kids I work with in the school that you might not want to do this now, but you can always come back later, or you might think you want to do this now and then decide that you don't want to do it. And theoretically, services will be available for at least another 20 years, so I can retire. The only people though with the disability that we don't serve specifically is those with a visual impairment, because they have their own agency called the Nebraska Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and they have basically the same kind of services as we do, but for those with just a visual impairment. So it's probably pretty small. But to qualify for our services, you have to have an impairment, a diagnosed disability of some sort. It can be a physical disability, a learning disability, mental health impairment, hearing impairment, any variety of things, like I said, except for that visual impairment. Then there must be an impediment to employment. So that disability must make it difficult for you to get, prepare, or keep work. There are some people who have a learning disability in reading, and the kind of job that they do, it does not affect them at all. So then they may not qualify for services because it isn't an impediment to employment. And then you have to be able to benefit from our services. There are people who are significantly impaired enough that employment isn't an option for them. And I think most of those people or their parents kind of know that before they come in. But if there's no benefit to be seen from that, from employment or being able to be employed, then we can't serve that person. Eligibility also requires that you're a U.S. citizen, a permanent resident, or a non-citizen that is authorized to work in this country. So. So by law, we are required to provide a full range of services as appropriate to the eligible individuals that apply. But sometimes we don't have money, like right now. And I've worked for VR for 20 some years, and this has never been an issue. And all of a sudden they rewrote the Workforce Act, and it kind of shifted some funding, different things. So now we are actually in an order of selection. So when we determine somebody eligible, they're put in a priority group based on the severity of their disability. And so there's priority 1, who are the most significantly disabled, priority 2, and then priority 3. And we are actually right now closed for all priority groups, and we have a waiting list for services. And I have a handout that explains that waiting list. So yeah, so that's kind of the long story short. So right now you can apply for services and you can be put on the waiting list, and we'll refer you to Workforce. Because that's pretty much what we have.
But I do want to add with that, like, we really promoted in our office for them individuals to still go and apply with
Right.
VR, because for them to receive our services, we don't have to have a letter from VR, but it helps dramatically for us to qualify them. So I would really suggest to your clients that it would be best interest for them to apply for VR services, even though they're just getting on that wait list, because that letter from them saying they would qualify gets them into our program.
And it also opens up some doors with like Goodwill and some other programs. So if people are hesitant to apply because of the waiting list, I would encourage them to do that, get on the waiting list, get that letter. If they get going with Workforce and get a job, they can call us up and say, hey, close my case, take me off the list. And that in turn eventually will benefit the people that end up on the list behind them. So right now, people always ask, well, when am I going to get off the waiting list? I have no idea. It all depends on funding, and when that funding comes in, we've requested reallotment dollars from the feds. We'll know about that in September. I mean, I can't tell you, well, now serving number, whatever, but there are over 2,000 people on that waiting list across the state, and they don't come off. North Platte doesn't have its own waiting list. It's a statewide waiting list, so. I hate to sound grim, but it feels grim to me. I mean, I work primarily with kids in schools, so we do have services for pre-employment transition. Kids in schools are referred by people that work with them, like their teachers if they're on an IEP. And there's things we can do in that realm. We can do, some career exploration and planning and some basic work-based learning kinds of things. But as soon as they cross that stage and graduate, I have to say, guess what? You're on the waiting list. And that this spring has been a little rough on me, because I've sat with groups of kids that I've worked with for 2 years and said, okay, that was fun. Later, here's people who can help you. Stay in touch. Let me know how you're doing. But so that's kind of it. I have a referral form. Hopefully you guys have these. This is what we use to get referrals started. There's an English and a Spanish side, and then you can email this to somebody in our office or fax it over, whatever works. Gets us some basic information to get started. Somebody will meet with them, talk to them about the application process, the waiting list and all that, see if they're interested in applying. Then they go through some steps to get them eligible, look at their medical records, things like that, and then we do actually have an official letter that says you're on the waiting list, and that sometimes is what a person needs to get involved with some of the other programs. I also have a fact sheet about the order of selection that explains kind of what we talked about with the priority groups and things like that. And then I have contact information for offices all across the state. So if you need, if you know somebody and they move to a different area, you can connect them with the right office. But otherwise, I did put the students in here. Sorry, I didn't think I'd do that. So when we work with kids in schools, it's job exploration, workplace readiness, work-based learning, planning for post-secondary. Like if a kid is going to graduate from high school and go on to college, I can keep their case open in pre-employment transition services and basically provide some support. I always tell them, you get a letter from the college and you don't know what it means, call me, we'll figure it out. You're having trouble, call me, I can help you figure out who to connect to. But in days past, we've been able to help fund some college things, and that is not an appropriate pre-employment transition service. And we also do some work in self-advocacy, you know, especially with the college kids, making sure they get connected to the support services they need at school to be successful and things like that. So the steps to get started, somebody refers you, usually it's teachers because they have an IEP at school, and that's part of that transition process. But referrals can come from other places if that student has a documented disability but maybe chose not to be in special education or is not qualified for special education. Then we have a one-page consent form. And then usually if a student is in school, I will meet with them at their school. I try not to pull them out of classes that are hard to make up, but and then we just figure out what they want to do and what we need to do to help them get there. So that's how to get a hold of us here in North Platte. And we cover basically the same as Ashley's group, north and south borders, Lexington to Big Springs, and everything in between. Okay. Does anybody have questions about Nebraska VR's waiting list? Or potential services that we might have again someday? I just have to laugh because I don't know what else to do. It just frustrates.
So Katie, do you meet with kids outside of school? Because like with some of ours, like they don't bring applications to you, they need someone to kind of take them to go and do that? Or do you solely just work with them at the school?
We can be outside of school. It's a little trickier given that I work in 22 schools.
Right.
I'm rarely in my office, but yeah, like this summer we're gonna do some in McCook, North Platte, and Lexington. We're gonna do some like little couple-hour work on some self-advocacy skills or something like that.
But you can't physically take them to like Domino's to get an application. They have to come to you? Because that's always been kind of the question, I guess,
Somebody
on our
has to
end.
sign a release for them to ride in a state car and all of that. but
Okay, I didn't know how all that works.
Yeah, and that's truly not supposed to be the focus of our service. It's giving them the skills to be able to do that. But in reality, I know that sometimes we just,
You have to take them the first time at least.
Yeah.
Okay, I know how that worked.
any other questions? Thank you.
Because then you guys can take notes on them if you
And I'll just leave the brochures up here on the table and you can grab whatever you want. There aren't a lot of brochures. I'm sorry, I don't know who's in charge of ordering them. So.
It shows it right up there. It doesn't show it right there. All right, good morning all. I'm Randa Mussel. I'm the program manager for Goodwill Industries Employment Program. I manage here in North Platte, McCook, Lexington, and Ogallala. So for everybody attending, I serve your areas. So I'll do a quick overview of Goodwill. I think everybody should have gotten the PowerPoint, even though you can see it, but I did try to email that out this morning. So Goodwill Industries of Greater Nebraska has a mission to dedicate to helping people with disabilities or barriers achieve their goals and improve their quality of life. Through our work at Goodwill, the people we serve will have the opportunity to improve their quality of life and achieve their greatest potential. We have several value statements that I'll let you guys read on your own that we do very much uphold to within Goodwill Industries of Greater Nebraska. A quick overview of Goodwill history. So Goodwill Industries of Greater Nebraska actually started as a satellite under Goodwill Omaha in 1965 with a retail store on 4th and Pine in Grand Island. Then we broke out and started Central Nebraska Goodwill Industries, serving 22 counties. Somebody's very loud. Is that Okalala? Is it really loud outside in the hallway? Thank you. Our territory in 2002 expanded to 55 counties. So that's why we're called Goodwill Industries of Greater Nebraska. We actually serve from Columbus all the way to Scotts Bluff, and then everything north to south. So, and we celebrated our 50th anniversary June last year. So this is our territory on this slide. All the counties we serve, the 55 counties, and growing, I do believe. So employment and career, our goal is to create jobs that last. And we are a program that you have to be referred to our services through either VR, Region 2, Heartland Counseling, LFS, anything like that. Anybody can actually refer. We can do self-referrals as well, and then connect those to the areas that need to be able to get the financial assistance and to pay kind of for our services in a sense. But we actively pursue competitive employment in the community. We work with mental health diagnosis, intellectual and developmental disabilities, substance use disorders, and work with drug court as well. So benefits for employers is the recruitment and retention assistance. So we can actually go in and job coach. We can help figure out worksite accommodations, do things with scheduling, and help provide interview clothing, interview skills, build their resumes, go with them to interviews, drive them to interviews, take them to work, provide bus passes. There's just a lot. Everything is case by case, individually based, and just whatever the individual needs and whatever we can provide for them when they come through our door. So we are in it for the long haul. We don't just help them find a job and then see you later. We help find a job, make sure that job is a good fit, help them do work-life balance. At 30 days, we make sure that they're stable in that employment, that they're happy, the employer's happy. If there's anything we need to step in and help with, anything like that. And then at 90 days, we move them into what's called our long-term supports. And then we just make sure that things continue. They make sure that, again, the work-life balance is there and that there aren't any issues that come up or anything like that. So we also offer benefits planning. So if somebody has Social Security benefits, we actually have certified benefits planners on staff that can then sit down and do an extreme, intense, in-depth benefits exploration of how their benefits are going to be affected by working and what they may lose, what they may gain if they qualify for other programs, because anybody who understands benefits or has just a little inkling knows that those are extremely gray. There is no black and white. Like what works for one person is not going to work for another. And so it's a huge thing for them not to lose their benefits and to understand how they can keep connected to Medicaid, Medicare. You know, if they qualify for something else. We have a few right now that have purchased vehicles through their past plans that they've acquired through their benefits with our certified benefits providers and things like that. So there's just lots of in-depth things that I don't even know, but I know that my colleague sitting next to me in the office over can definitely assist with all that because she's been CWIC certified, and I believe there's only five or six in the state of Nebraska, and Goodwill has 4 of them, I believe, that are CWIC certified. So that meet Social Security requirements and everything like that to provide accurate benefits planning. So So we offer behavioral health employment program, like I said, developmental disabilities, supported employment for individuals with autism, spectrum disorder, and then the comprehensive benefits planning. With that, with VR being in order of selection, it changes the areas in which we can provide right now. So at this point, if they meet VR, priority 1 group, and have a behavioral health diagnosis, we can bring them on and serve them through our program. If currently they have the developmental disability or the autism spectrum disorder, we cannot serve them while VR is in the order of selection unless eventually developmental disabilities comes up with a plan to help fund that and allows them, since they just went to the requirement of VR had to be in place. So, there's still a lot of individuals that we serve. We can serve anybody with substance use disorder, with diagnosed substance use, and we still send them to VR to get that letter, but we can actually serve them without VR letter if substance use is their primary. So what do? We have decided that meaningful work contributes to the recovery and wellness of independence and self-sufficiency. So my team, I feel I have an amazing staff of employment specialists, and they really work hard to match qualified candidates to the job openings in the local community. We maintain strong, responsive working relationships with employers to answer questions and address needs. We actually have several employers that call us to see if we have anybody that would meet the criteria of needed openings or anything like that. So my staff definitely does a good job in keeping those communication and that open area of availability. So, and then just a little bit more about the comprehensive benefits planning. Assist working individuals receiving Social Security benefits to earn wages that won't jeopardize their benefits, like the medical, like Medicaid, Medicare, like I said. They serving any job seeker that's currently enrolled in our Goodwill's program. So if they qualify for our employment program, they can qualify for the comprehensive benefits planning service. And then that is an ongoing service. So we even help our benefits planners help them submit their pay stubs every month and make sure that they're reporting accurately and that Social Security is not missing any information or anything like that, so it's not in turn jeopardizing their benefits down the road. So otherwise, that's kind of a quick overview of all the amazing things I feel that we do within Goodwill Industries of Greater Nebraska. But in this western part, all we provide is the supported employment program. In the Tri-Cities area, Goodwill has a lot more to offer. But we can always link them. Like if somebody was going to move that way, they can, in sense, transfer to one of our other locations as well and still stay hooked up with an employment specialist and all that, even though they're not right here in the area that I serve. Questions? Yes.
So for youth care, we have, for Region 2, we have a contract with, so you're able to do an age waiver if they're under 19.
If they're in their second semester of their senior year, and yes, we can request an age waiver. Or if they're like homeschooled and deemed that they're at that level of, that second semester area, or can at least accept the adult, like work with the adult services if we can justify that they're not, like 15 and definitely not going to be able to work adult services in a sense.
What about if they're graduated and they're 17?
If they're graduating 17, we can do an age waiver. Yep. Other questions? Okay, I have a few brochures too, and I will try to scan those and email them. I didn't think they would email very good because they're all in color, but I will try to email them, and then they can be passed on just for some more information. All that was stuff. Here, my stuff. to you anyway. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I believe so. Stuff these from the back, but if you guys want to pass these around, they're sticky notes. Yes. Do we have anybody that's wrapping up?
We're all excited for pencils, sticky notes. And
Oh, they have sticky notes, sticky notes.
Oh, and pens. Does anybody have anything else? Coach Ogalala?
it's always fun.
Hey, McCook or Oglala, do you guys have any other questions?
No.
Okay. Well, I guess that's all. So, thank you guys for sharing about your programs and.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.